Hello, my name is Isaac and welcome to my book channel. I started this book channel because JJ told me like, hey, why you read so many books? Then why you don't do like some content to summarize your books? And then at the same time I was telling Rich, right, that hey, actually you should read more, and this book is good, this book is good. Then she said, you read for me lah. She watches a lot of YouTube videos. So I was thinking, might as well just come up with the content and then make her watch the YouTube video, and then she can learn everything that I was trying to share with her. So I love learning about new things and changing my mind about things and understanding how the world works or how other people think about the world. So this really helps me through like emotional health and all that. So in this channel, I'll be reviewing books that I have read and sharing with you guys my own thoughts and takeaways. Few things before we start. Honestly, I don't read like most people read, I think. I read through audiobook. I don't care whether you guys read through using Kindle, using a normal like hardcover, paperback, or even audiobook like me. Like there are some people who are like very hard up on these things. Oh, you must read the hardcover book. Actually, that's kind of like me last time. But now I use audiobook and it's very effective because when I drive, when I take the cab, or I take the MRT, or like the bus, I can just plug it in and then I listen to the book, and it's very effective. Like I can clear books very fast. Yeah, of course, there are some times where points I miss. That's when I can read it again. Secondly, even though I summarize the book or I give my key takeaways and personal thoughts on it, I really highly encourage you guys to read the books themselves, because there's just a different vibe when you read a summary versus you read the book. So when you read a book, you really get a vibe and you really get convinced of the things that the author is trying to say. If, of course, the author writes well. So the third thing that I would say is kind of like my philosophy in reading. I believe in like reading the book and kind of understand where the person comes from, even though I might not agree with the person from the outset. So reading with an open mind to inform my own worldview and adjust my worldview as it goes along. Secondly, I think that you don't really have to read the book in full. I think this is what Naval Ravikant, who said that you don't really need to read the book in full. Once you get a vibe of the book, once the main ideas, you kind of understand it, you can just put it away, especially if it gets very, very difficult to go through the book, because some authors are just not as good as others, and maybe some ideas are just extrapolated into 500 pages. So maybe you could just read or skim through like 50 pages and you kind of get the understanding of the book already. So don't waste your time if you're stuck on a book. Some of my friends, like, they read one book for like 3 years because they just can't get past that middle chapter or something. So my suggestion is just put that book away, get a new book. So those are just some ground rules I have for myself when I read. Today's book, which is the first book of this channel, is, drumroll, Atomic Habits by James Clear. This book is about how small and consistent changes can lead to great personal and professional growth in life, and also gives you some strategies to kind of like go about making these small changes. What is this concept of atomic habits? Is that these small microatomic level habits that you actually change over time can actually create massive results in your personal life and your professional life. James Clear talks about 4 laws of behavioral change, and firstly, cue, then craving and response, and then reward. Then he talks about identity-based habits, where you think of yourself as a certain kind of person, and then you have the habits of that kind of person rather than what you want to achieve. For example, if you want to be a millionaire, you kind of like believe you're a millionaire and then you act like one, rather than you thinking, I want to earn $1 million. A few more strategies like habit stacking, continuous improvement, the 2-minute rule, environment design, and so on. So this book is great. I think it really is kind of like a sequel to Charles Duhigg's book, The Power of Habit, which I think I will review sometime in the next few weeks. What James Clear says about habit is really true. I think that 1% improvement every single day is so compounding. If you heard of the law of compounding, where you kind of like improve a little bit, or like kind of like money, right? Where you have an interest rate of like 5% year on year, you kind of like get $1 million at the end of like 30 years or something. And I think that's the same with personal growth and professional growth, and kind of like building your efficiency, building your knowledge and skills and all that. I think that's really important, and that's why habits are important. Something that's quite interesting to me is the 4 laws of behavioral change. It really is kind of like training a dog, kind of like is the cue, the craving, the response, and the reward. Kind of you kind of take the treat, and you say like, you kind of like make it obvious, right? That's like the cue. Then the craving is kind of like make the treat attractive, so kind of like ostrich or something. Then the dog will be like, oh wow, that's a very nice treat, so what do you want me to do? You kind of tell the dog to sit, then oh okay, the response is easy, and then you kind of give the treat to the dog. It works the same way with humans, and how you can kind of like trick your mind. For example, if every time you want to build in your habit of going to the gym, then after the gym you kind of give yourself like bubble tea, then you'll keep going to the gym somehow, but of course the bubble tea might not be, is kind of counterproductive. Another thing that I kind of took away is the identity-based habits being brought up in a kind of like achievement-based education system. I need to earn this amount of money, I need to get this position at work and get that client. The better way to do it is to think yourself as of a certain kind of person and work towards that, rather than having goals. Like, what would a successful person do? And you kind of like build the habits around that, to build systems and to build your lifestyle towards who you kind of want to be. This really aligns with some of the other literature that I have read. My mental model now, it's kind of like the mindset of like who you are, then you form the habits to build who you are. Then from there you kind of progress, and as you progress, it becomes reality. I actually read this book about 2 years ago. I chose it because it had a very big impact on my life. Before reading this book and before reading The Power of Habit, right, I actually think I can do everything ad hoc, right? In the sense like, okay, today what do I feel like doing? I can wake up at a little bit later and then wear different clothes, and then like do whatever I feel like doing, and it's possible to live a life like that. Of course it's possible, but it's not very effective because it kind of drains your cognitive power. If you know of a book by Daniel Kahneman called Thinking Fast and Slow, he talks about the type 1 and type 2 kind of thinking. So type 1 is kind of like your autopilot, where you don't actually use a lot of like brain power, and type 2 is the one that you actually use a lot of brain power. Type 1 is kind of like when you're driving, sometimes you don't really think, you space out but you still can drive, or like when some people, when they drink but they still can go home and they appear lying on their sofa the next day. While type 2 is kind of like doing exam questions. So you kind of like want to fit as much things into type 1 as possible. If you build a system that is so robust that you can continue improving even though you are not really using your type 2 thinking process, right, you can actually go pretty far. And I think building that system, and you kind of like don't have to think about it, that's when the compounding happens. When every day you have to think like, okay, what is the productive thing that I should do today? Should I go to the gym? Should I wear this shirt? Should I go and eat at 2 p.m. for lunch, or 3 p.m. for lunch, or like 11 a.m. for lunch? You're using so much brain. By the time you actually want to do the thing that is important, you kind of like lose it. To kind of like build this habit, gotta have a certain runway where you try to build the structure in, but later with like different rewards over time. Before you know it, within like 21 days, you kind of got the habit in. I kind of like chose this book to review, to kind of remind myself about these routines. I'm kind of not in a great place routine-wise. Now I'm trying to build the habit back, to go to the gym and then go to the office and kind of like do the things religiously and then building cues, building the rewards so that I can start to become more effective in a personal and a professional level. I think for like employees, it's really much easier to do that, where you can go to the office and have kind of fixed routine. But for like people like me and Rach who are self-employed, it's really difficult to do. Back when I was an employee, right, I could really wake up at like 6:30 and then get my morning meditation done, make my bread and my coffee, and then go to the gym and then bathe and then go to the office at the exact same time, taking the exact same train. I really improved in terms of like my learning and my career. I really want to build that habit part of this whole process back into my own personal system. And another thing is also tracking my progress, tracking where I am at now versus 6 months ago. How am I faring? Not in terms of like my goals, but am I actually like a person that I envision myself to be? How have I progressed towards being that person? I hope you have learned something from this video and from the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. If you love reading as much as I do, hit the subscribe button below and give the video a thumbs up. Or if you're a bit like Rach and you don't want to read the books and you want to pass all the reading to me, you can comment what book should I review next, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!